good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our presentation about how to present at a conference. I am Diogo Pinheiro. I'm the Assistant Director for CURCA, and here with me is Alison Grandel. She's the Administrative Assistant for CURCA. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about how to present at the annual research conference, but what we're going to say here applies to any other conference as well. And then at the end, if you have any questions, please let us know, and we'll be glad to answer it. So I'm going to share my screen here so that you can have access to my presentation. 1 second, here we go. So today we're going to be talking about how to present at a conference, and in particular, we're going to be talking about the ARC. Now, if you haven't presented at a conference before, let me remove some of that tension and stress. The ARC is a great place to present for the first time. It is a local conference, meaning that the majority of the people who will be attending will be, other UNG students, faculty. Of course, your family is more than welcome to attend as well. And so this way, you're going to be there at a conference where everybody has your best interests at heart, right? So it's okay for you to not have the best presentation ever. It's okay for you to be kind of starting on your path to becoming a better presenter. And so this is a good way for you to get feedback on your research, get feedback on your presentation style, so that you are ready for bigger and more and busier conferences in the future, right? The conference itself is free and open to the public. So as I said, you want to bring your family, your friends, whoever you want. It's free to attend. We will be serving lunch during the conference itself too. So it's a very nice opportunity for UNG students. So at the ARC, we're going to have 3 different types of presentations that are possible: oral presentations, paper presentations, and poster presentations, right? The first 2, oral presentations and paper presentations, are very similar. They differ in whether you're using kind of a PowerPoint or not. But we'll get to that in a second. And then the poster presentation, of course, is something set aside, right? At this point, of course, whether you're submitted for a panel or a poster presentation. So you should be able to start practicing for either one as you get ready for the conference, right? So we'll start by talking about oral presentations. So the way that this is going to happen is that we're going to take papers that are similar in discipline, in subject matter, etc., and put them all in a similar panel. There will be 3 to 4 papers per panel. And that means that each paper will have between 10 to 15 minutes to present. In these oral presentations, it's common to have some sort of PowerPoint where you discuss your research with bullet points, etc. The PowerPoint is not mandatory. As we'll see in a second, you can do a paper presentation instead. But in terms of these oral presentations, a PowerPoint can be very useful in helping you keep track of time, right? You have 10 slides, that you can spend about 1 minute to 2 minutes on each slide, right? It helps you stay on pace, right? These presentations can be done either individually or as a group. For example, if you have a co-author and you want to have each of you speak 7 minutes, that is fine. Normally, the way that these presentations go, there will be a Q&A session. Depending on the moderator, the Q&A session can happen either immediately after the presentation or at the end of all the presentations, right? So some moderators will say, we'll take questions for 5 minutes now before we move on to the next presentation. Others will say, save all your questions until the end of the session, and where they'll have all the questions there, right? This particular type of presentation allows you to kind of tweak and practice all the way up until the due date for the PowerPoints that we ask you to send to us, right? And so the idea here is you come up with some sort of PowerPoint with about 7 to 10 slides, right? Keep in mind that you don't want to have 30 slides for a 15-minute presentation, right? And then you tweak it around, you practice a little bit with it, And then one of the things that we are asking is for you to submit your PowerPoint presentation to us by March 20th. The reason that we're asking for that is so that we can load those PowerPoint presentations in the different rooms ahead of time, so that we don't have to worry about people, trying to load their own presentations. We can keep that transition time between one paper and the next very low, right? So if you're doing the sort of oral presentation with a PowerPoint, send us the PowerPoint by March 20th at noon, and it will be loaded in the room that you're going to be presenting, so that when you get there, you can just go ahead and present. So that's one possibility for presenting at ARC. Another possibility is doing a paper presentation. It's going to be in the panel just like the oral presentations that we've just talked about. The difference for a paper presentation is that this one, if you don't want to use a PowerPoint, it's fine, right? For many disciplines, it's more common to have a paper presentation than a kind of a PowerPoint presentation. And so the idea here is that you would have a prepared paper that you're going to read during your allotted 10 to 15 minutes, right? So that instead of going along with a PowerPoint on the screen, you're providing the audience with kind of an explanation, with a beginning, a middle, and an end of the research or the creative activity that you've done, right? So it's kind of common in certain humanities when there's not a lot of graphs or tables and so on to use this type of presentation instead of the oral presentation that we mentioned before, right? If you're going to be doing something like that, we ask that you submit your paper presentation by March 22nd. And again, the reason for that is so that we have it ready for you at the conference itself, right? We want to make it all so that it's very easy for you to just get to the conference and be ready to present, right? We're not going to be tweaking or editing your presentation when you submit it to us. We're just going to make sure that when you get to March 24th, you get to the room that you're going to be presenting in, everything is going to be there. So there's no, oh my God, I forgot my PowerPoints. Oh my God, I can't find my paper. Everything will be there and will be smooth and ready to go, right? So this type of presentation here is much like the oral presentation with a PowerPoint. It's going to be 10 to 15 minutes. And then depending on the moderator, the questions will be asked either immediately after your presentation or at the end of all the presentations that have been assigned to your panel, right? So these here are going to be the panels that we're going to be putting together. If you haven't yet, you should be receiving an email soon asking you about potential time slots that you would not be able to present. So make sure that you respond to that email so that as we assign papers to the different panels, we have that information in hand. We can't guarantee that we're going to be able to put you at your preferred time, but we can try, right? So these are going to be the types of presentations that are going to be parts of panels where you're going to be in front of an audience speaking for 10 to 15 minutes. The other type of presentation that we have as a possibility for the ARC are going to be poster presentations, right? And so the way that poster presentations are going to happen in the ARC is that at noon, you're going to have a stand where you're going to put your poster in, and then for the 1 hour, between 12 and 1, you'll be there standing by your poster. And as people come and go, you're going to be giving them kind of the elevator pitch type of presentation where, you're going to have 2 to 5 minutes to say, hey, here's my research, here's, what I did. Sometimes people are not going to even ask questions. They're just going to stand there and want to read it for themselves instead of having you go through what you've done. And then they might have questions, right? So the idea here is that if you're doing the poster presentation, you show up at the Convocation Center about 30 minutes earlier, right, the 30 minutes before noon, so that we can tell you exactly where you're going to put you're going to be. If you send your poster to us, we will have your poster ready there for you, right? So you might want to print your own poster, and so you bring that along with you in that case. But if you send us your poster, we'll print it and we can have it there for you, ready to go. And so the idea here, again, you show up at about 11:30, you make sure that everything is in place, and then you stand by your poster as people come and go through your assigned spot, right? And so some people may ask questions, some people will read your poster and then ask questions. So that's the idea. When you're designing your poster, one of the things that's important to keep in mind is, you want to be able to have a posters that people can read from sort of a distance, right? You don't want to have, a poster that is 12 fonts, single spaced, where people have to get really up close to be able to read it, right? So think about how your poster looks like from a distance as people are trying to read in the middle of the convocation center, right? And so keep text to a minimum. Don't make your poster too busy. Really highlight the important points of your research rather than have a very thorough poster, right? So keep that in mind. This sort of poster is going to be very useful for people who have to present lots of tables and graphs, right? Because that way you can have that data right there next to you as people ask you about your research. And so the poster session, as I mentioned, is going to be between 12 and 1. And it is also going to be the time where we're going to be serving food. So we expect a lot of people to be there. Food attract lots of participants, and so people are going to be there walking around, looking at your posters, asking you questions, that sort of stuff. If you need us to print your poster, please submit it to us by March 14th, right? Some of you are in departments where the department itself will print the poster, and in that case, it's your responsibility to bring it with you on the day of the conference. But if your department is not doing that, we can print your poster for you, but you have to submit your poster to us by March 14th, right? In terms of the poster itself, there's going to be a size that we recommend, which is the 36 by 48 inches, right? It's 36 inches high, 48 inches wide, right? And there's going to be a UNG poster template online that you can follow to make sure that your poster looks good, that everything looks good. The basic and most important tip that we can give you with regards to presentations is to practice, right? I've done dozens of presentations throughout my career. Nowadays, I know how to hit that 15-minute mark without having to look at my watch, right? You tell me I have to do a 15-minute presentation. Nowadays, because I have so much practice, I don't have even to think about it. I know exactly how many slides and how much to talk to get to that 15 minutes, right? If it's your first presentation, you're probably not going to have that same practice. So ideally here, you can practice on your own so that you know exactly when to hit your 15-minute mark if you're doing an oral or paper presentation, or that you're going to have your 2 to 5 minute elevator pitch if you're doing your poster presentation, right? Generally speaking, if you are part of a panel where you're doing an oral or a paper presentation, the moderator will be helping you keep track of time, right? They're going to tell you when there's 5 minutes left, 1 minute left, and when your time is up. And so keep that in mind as you practice, right? You don't want to put all this work into your research and then it comes time to present and whoops, it's 15 minutes and you're only about a third of the way into your presentation, right? So practice is super important. If you have questions about slides and about posters, etc., we will be more than glad to answer those, right? And so keep in mind the deadlines that we've discussed, right? There's a deadline for when you submit your PowerPoints for your paper that you're going to be reading or your poster, right? And so keep those in mind and we'll make sure that everything on March 24th happens smoothly, right? So as for the conference itself, it's going to be, as you should know by now, March 24th between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. There's a possibility that we'll have a panel at 3 p.m. that would be a panel with other professors discussing how to apply to grad school and that sort of stuff. But student presentations will be between 9 and 3 p.m. As I said, it's free and open to all students, faculty, and the public. You want to bring your parents, your neighbor, that weird person that you sometimes see at the gas station. They're all free to come, right? And so it's going to be at the Dahlonega campus at the Convocation Center. There's plenty of parking around the Convocation Center. It is very easy to get there. It's a huge building, you can't miss it. And so it's all going to be there. You show up, you sign, you check in with us, we'll have your name tags and we'll have directions for you there. And so that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can come to our office, you can email us, you can call us, and we'll be more than glad to help you get ready for the ARC.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Like Dr. Pinheiro said, you can send us questions. We'll also be updating the webpage on Noir, which you can access by going to ung.edu/UNGARC. Once we're done being able to panel and schedule everything, we'll send out the preliminary schedule to you all, and we'll also be updating that webpage with more information and the final program as we get closer to that date. So thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it and hope you have a great day.